Black Myth Wukong contains plenty of optional and easily missed quests, bosses, rewards, and even secret areas. In this guided walkthrough series, we'll be hitting upon all NPC interactions and quests, bosses, and journal entries. We will also be doing our best to cover all achievements or trophies and how to get them. In other words, we will be doing just about everything that is encompassed in a satisfying playthrough of Black Myth Wukong. As usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. In part 1, we will be covering everything to do in Chapter 1 of the game, which takes place in Blackwind Mountain. The game starts with a fight against Erlang as Wukong. This fight is just to get us familiar with the game's combat mechanics, and there is no way to lose this fight as far as I know. Following that fight, an introductory cinematic will play out, and we will appear in the Forest of Wolves within Blackwind Mountain. I have some quick starting tips as we make our way to the first Keeper's Shrine or checkpoint. First, I recommend defeating at least one of each new enemy that you come across so that you can add their entry to your journal. Also, keep an eye out for and pick any herbs or mushrooms that you come across. They have a chance of giving a seed for that plant type when picked, and we'll be able to make use of those once we get to Chapter 3. Finally, chests take on a few different forms, from shoddy and wooden to ornate. Many also look like logs. They often contain useful materials or items that can be sold for will, this game's form of currency, but some will contain unique items as well. As we approach our first shrine, a cutscene will play out. We will also get the Incense Trail Talisman, which we can equip to a quick use slot for an easy and fast return to our last visited shrine. Beginning at the Front Hill Shrine, we will start by moving towards a bridge. We can then jump off the right side of the bridge into the water below. We'll find a new bird type enemy here that we can defeat for a new journal entry. There's also a floating green spirit nearby, which grants will when collected. However, we won't get the full amount of will from these objects until we get a bit further into Chapter 1. Next, we can move down the stream, picking up a few herbal ingredients and encountering a new frog-type enemy. Towards the end of the river, we'll meet a new NPC, the Mandrill Chief. This NPC's questline takes place over several chapters, and we won't be adding her entry to our journal until near the end of the game. That being said, we can still go up to the stone head the Mandrill was near and grab the Skandha of Form. We won't be able to do anything with this until we reach Chapter 6. With that, we can go down the path to the right of the river to reach our first boss. Pause now until after you fight the boss if you want to avoid boss spoilers. For everyone else, the Bull Guard is relatively easy, and this fight serves more as a way for us to unlock our first spell, Immobilize. I won't be spending too much time on discussing skills and abilities or builds, but I will say that the Stamina Foundation skills are nice to get early on. In particular, I'll be building towards the Composure skill, which makes it much easier to execute light attack combos against bosses and other tougher foes. For that, we will need to put at least 1 point into each of the 4 skills before it. With that handled, we can go up the stairs ahead and along the left path of the next area. We'll eventually reach a scenic overlook and our first meditation spot, which is for the Arbor Forest of Wolves. Sitting at a meditation point for the first time gets us a journal entry and a free spark or skill point. With that, we can turn around and go through a dark cave to reach our next shrine. As soon as we leave the shrine outside the forest, we will trigger another cutscene that leaves us in a golden cicada form. Once we shift out of that form, we will never be able to turn back. All the same, I don't see the use of such a form, so I'm going to just turn back into a monkey. Moving into the forest, we can start by going up the sloped path to the left of the 2 wolf enemies. At the top, we will find a new enemy type standing next to a metal chest. We can defeat the enemy for a journal entry and open the chest for some medicine and pieces of gold. There is a boss fight across the bridge and down the path ahead, so return to the shrine if you need to heal before proceeding. Otherwise, you can pause now to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, Guangzhi is, in my opinion, the first real challenge we face in the game. At this point, Immobilize is our best bet to get in substantial damage. We will also want to watch our stamina bar to make sure that we have enough for dodging. Guangzhi has a few attacks that we need to watch out for, such as his fire dash and swoop attacks. His blade throw is also particularly nasty. If we are set on fire, we can put it out faster by rapidly dodging 3 times in a row. Fortunately, even if we die, we won't lose any XP or will, which is what happens in a typical Souls-like game. After defeating Guangzhi, we can pick up his twin blade to unlock the Red Tide's transformation spell. This is an extremely useful spell that will help us a great deal with many of the early game bosses, especially once we master it. We will cover how to get the most out of this spell during the next boss fight. For now, we will want to ring the nearby bell, and we can then use the Incense Trail Talisman to return back to our last shrine. Before moving on, I recommend exploring this area a bit more thoroughly and defeating lesser enemies to gain experience points. The next boss is tough, and it would be best if we had the Composure skill before facing it. In addition, if you pick at the various herbs around this area, you may get a Ginseng Lee to spawn, which can then be defeated for a new journal entry. I found mine in the area to the left of the shrine. Moving on, from the shrine outside the forest, I'm just running straight to the next boss, but I recommend eliminating the 3 enemies leading up to it so that they don't interfere. The boss is called the Wandering Wight, and you don't technically have to face it right now, but if we use our new spell efficiently, it should be reasonable enough to defeat. With that, you can pause if you want to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, we can start out the fight with a charged heavy attack. We can then use Immobilize to get in some extra damage or just go straight into our transformation. I found the way to get the most out of this spell is somewhat specific. First, the gold bar to the bottom left indicates how much time we have in this form. It's mainly drained by attacking and dodging. What we want to do is get in some light attacks to fill the meter on the bottom right of the screen. Once that is fully charged, we can perform a backwards dodge and immediately follow it with a heavy attack. If executed correctly, we should perform a swooping attack that deals a ton of damage. Finally, if we are efficient enough, we should be able to then repeat this process once more before we shift out of the transformation. The Wight should also be on the ground at that point, and we can then get in a light attack combo and perhaps even a heavy attack. When all is said and done, the Wight should be down to about half health. At that point, I recommend keeping your distance from the Wight and playing very defensively until the Red Tide spell is ready to use again. The Wandering Wight will drop its blue soul when defeated. We won't be able to pick up this soul until a little bit after the next boss fight, but don't worry, we can recover it at any shrine once we are able to. For now at least, we will get a decent chunk of experience along with our first Curios, the Cat Eye Beads. Return to the shrine if you need to heal, then run through the nearby cave and along the path that follows. Beyond a few enemies, one of which will provide a new journal entry, we will enter the Guanyin temple. There is a boss ahead, but before that, we can craft a new armor set at the shrine. I personally just crafted the wrist straps and chest piece, as we will be getting a new head armor soon enough. We can also find a small chest in the back left of the entry area. Entering the courtyard of the temple will start the next boss fight, and you can pause until you defeat it to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, Lingxuzi is a very intimidating boss. However, it's actually fairly easy compared to both Guangzhi and especially the Wandering Wight. Making efficient use of both the Red Tides and Immobilize spells should help a great deal in taking down this Yaoguai king. Defeating this boss will get us the Grey Wolf mask. We can also loot the chest in the back right of the courtyard. Going through the back of the temple, we will find a small chest containing a celestial Jade Lotus pill, which permanently raises our maximum health. And for those that are wondering, permanent upgrade pills that have already been obtained will be converted to will when obtained again in New Game Plus. In any case, we will find the next shrine just to the right after exiting the temple. Here is another quick view at the skills I have invested in up to this point. The Back Hills Shrine is the first shrine in Bamboo Grove. As we make our way down the stairs that follow, we can turn down a path to the left to reach the second meditation point of this chapter, which is for the Cavern Bamboo Grove. There is also a new NPC nearby, Tianba, and we will want to speak through all of his dialogue. We can then run back out of the cave and along the main path to reach the next shrine. Going up the stairs near a small pond and crossing a bridge, we can find a chest containing some useful consumables to the right. The next shrine is then just a short distance ahead. From the Snake Trail Shrine, we can go up the nearby stairs and find a new NPC, Yuan Shucheng, in the alcove on our right. He'll teach us how to absorb spirits in our gourd. In addition to letting us get the full amount of will from green spirits, this will also allow us to absorb the blue spirits from specific enemies, such as the Wandering Wight. If you have not already defeated the Wandering Wight, then now is a good time to do so. On the other hand, if we already defeated the Wandering Wight, we can go to the nearest shrine and retrieve spirits to get it. Spirits like this can be upgraded or cultivated at any shrine, and the Wandering Wight happens to be one of the best spirits in the game. It does a good deal of instant damage and provides a considerable passive bonus to defense when equipped. Next, moving up the path from the shrine, we can jump over the bridge to the left and run towards the nearby clearing. We should defeat any of the frog enemies while moving into this area, as there will be a boss that jumps in. You can pause now to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, the boss, Baw-Li-Ginh-Lang, is the first of several frog-based mini-bosses. They can be a bit of a pain to fight, but this first one is not overly difficult. After defeating it, we can heal to full with our gourd, then absorb the frog spirit. If you are trying to complete your journal, continue forward down the nearby path. It will eventually lead to a drop down into the main area of the Bamboo Grove. There are 2 new enemy types roaming around here. In addition, there are a ton of snakehead mushrooms to be harvested. One of these will also usually spawn in a Fungiling when harvested, which will also add a new journal entry when defeated. In any case, there is a somewhat difficult boss fight ahead, so I recommend returning to the Snake Trail Shrine to heal before proceeding. From there, we can head up the stairs and follow the main path to reach the main section of the bamboo grove again. We can then go down the path to the right to reach the boss arena. You can pause now until you defeat the boss to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, Guangmou opens the fight with an immediate attack. We will also need to watch out for when he summons snake minions to shoot poison projectiles at us. Our best bet is to just dodge until they despawn. Once the boss is defeated, we can absorb his soul, then go down the left path to ring our second bell in this area. Going down the other path will quickly lead us to the next shrine. Once you've gotten most skills in the stamina path, you can start investing into something else. I personally recommend beefing up the Immobilize spell. Next up, let's go meet another important NPC. Starting from the Marsh of the White Mist Shrine, we can go pluck a Luojia fragrant vine from the nearby tree, then make our way down the main path. We will quickly find the Shen monkey under attack by a lesser Yaoguai. Defeating that enemy will get us the Gall gem soak for our gourd. We can open up a small chest nearby, then follow the monkey to his cave. This NPC serves as the upgrader of our gourds and drinks. He will also give us the ability to brew at any shrine, which is how we swap out drink types and add soaks to them. For now, we can add the Gall gem to our current drink. We can also use the Luojia fragrant vine we just got to upgrade our gourd one time, increasing its capacity. A relatively tough boss fight is ahead, so make sure that you are all healed up, then continue down the main path. You can pause until after defeating the boss to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, the Whiteclad noble has two phases. His first phase is of moderate challenge, but the second phase, which is triggered after getting through the noble's first health bar, is where things can get a lot more difficult. I recommend saving enough mana for an Immobilize spell to finish off the boss, and you'll see why in just a moment. The strategy I came up with to get through the second phase is to just stay at a distance. This will cause the noble to use a charge attack fairly frequently. If we are able to dodge that attack, we will then have a small but guaranteed window to get in 1 or 2 light attacks. The tricky part comes when we need to finish the noble off, as he will heal a small amount when his health is low. Because of this, it's very helpful if we have an Immobilize spell to get in enough damage to finish him off. Otherwise, we have to do the risky play and go for several attacks in a row. Feel free to return to the previous shrine to heal, then come back to this area. There are 2 new paths out of this boss arena, and we can find the third and final bell down the left path, through a small tunnel. You can pause now until after ringing the bell to avoid spoilers. Since this is the final bell, ringing it should result in a small cutscene, and we will then be transported to the ancient Guanyin temple, which is the secret area of Chapter 1. To the right of the Grand Chamber Shrine, there are 3 chests. They contain some useful materials, and one will contain the Guanyin's Prayer Beads armor. Also, we should be able to craft the Twin Serpent Staff at any shrine at this point, which I went ahead and did. We can start the boss fight for this area by opening the nearby pair of doors, and you can pause until after defeating it if you want to avoid spoilers. The boss, Elder Jinchi, is very similar to the Wandering Wight, but I would argue that this one is easier. That being said, it does have a unique mechanic. At about half health, Jinchi will turn invulnerable and rise into the air. Minions will then start spawning in and begin walking towards Jinchi from all directions. We must go around and eliminate the minions before they can reach Jinchi, otherwise they will heal him. They move relatively slowly though, and each one we defeat will actually heal our own health. After a short amount of time, that phase will end and we can go back to wailing on Jinchi. Once the Yaoguai king is defeated, we will be transported back to the location of the third bell. We can then examine the hanging wolf nearby to get 2000 will and the Fireproof Mantle vessel, which will help us with the final boss of Chapter 1. Next, we'll run back out of this area and down the second path, which is to our left, taking us towards the next shrine. After entering the Black Wind Cave and defeating a new enemy type, we can take a quick detour, going left towards an overlook. Here we'll find a small chest containing a celestial Taiyi pill, which permanently raises maximum mana. We will also find the third and final meditation spot for Chapter 1, for the Cliff Black Wind Cave. We can then return to the fork and go down the path to our left to reach the next shrine. Defeating Elder Jinchi also gave us the ability to craft our first rare armor set, which is the bronze set. Because of my limited materials, I just crafted the arm guards and leg pieces. I also then crafted the pilgrim's headband. This allowed me to retain the 2-piece set bonus of the pilgrim set, while also getting the 2-piece bonus of the bronze set. At this point, I was also able to invest more points into the immobilize spell and invest 3 points into the staff stance skills, unlocking a second focus point for stronger heavy attacks. Finally, I was able to cultivate the Wandering Wight spirit 2 times. The next boss is just beyond the cave interior shrine of Black Wind Cave. You can pause until after defeating it to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, the Black Wind King can be a very annoying fight. I know it was for me. My best advice is to play defensively and always do your best to keep your health topped off. I was doing very well in my final successful attempt, but almost lost the fight because I neglected to heal earlier on when it would have been smart to do so. After defeating the Black Wind King, we will unlock a new spell, Cloud Step. Following a short cutscene, we can go to the chamber on our left and smash a gold glowing pot to get our first awakened wine worm. Turning around, we can then go forward and to the left a little to find a small chest containing the agate jar, our second Curios. Going down the path to our right will then take us to our next shrine. Before continuing on, we can make a quick trip to the Shen Monkey NPC, located near the Marsh of White Mist Shrine in Bamboo Grove. Through the Upgrade Drinks option, we can use the Awakened Wine Worm to upgrade our coconut wine 1 time, increasing its healing effectiveness. With that, we are ready to make our ascent towards the final boss of Chapter 1. Starting at the shrine outside the cave, we can grab the nearby bundle of spirits, then begin moving up the mountain. There are tons of archers in this area, and we'll need to either dodge a lot or use our newly acquired Cloud Step spell to get past them. A short distance up the path, we can drop down to a small arena-like area with a metal chest. There is a special elite form of the Wolf Assassin enemy here, and after defeating it, we can absorb and unlock its spirit. We can then loot the chest before returning to the main path. Along that path, we will find another small gold chest which contains a celestial Nonary pill. It permanently raises our maximum stamina. The last shrine of Chapter 1 is then just a short distance up the path past a few more enemies. The final boss of Chapter 1 is within the arena that is right next to the Bodhi Peak Shrine. Don't forget to equip and make use of the Fireproof Mantle vessel that we got earlier, and you can pause now until after defeating the final boss to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, I actually had a tougher time with the Black Wind King than I did with the Black Bear Guai. However, that's not to say that this boss is easy, and it's actually fairly tough. We'll have to make good use of all the spells and equipment we've earned up to this point if we want to reasonably defeat it. I saved my Fireproof Mantle vessel until the second phase of the fight, where the bear takes on a more fiery form. Using it then seemed to provide the most benefit and saved me from a lot of fire damage. Another combo that I found to be pretty effective was to immobilize the bear, then break that immobilization with a light attack combo. Then follow up that with a charged heavy slam attack using 2 focus points to power it. More than anything, this boss just requires a good deal of patience, waiting for safe openings to get in damage. After defeating the boss, a cinematic will play out, and you can pause now until that's over. Once we are at the Chapter 1 summary screen, we can view inventory to activate our new relic. Personally, I recommend the Opportune Watcher trait, but you can always remake your choice at any shrine. We can also check our journal before moving on from here to make sure that we haven't missed anything. You may notice that we are missing a Yaoguai king. Now that's normal, and we actually cannot get that final king until after finding a specific item in Chapter 2. That being said, we should have been able to get all other Chapter 1 portraits in our journal filled out. We should also have all 3 of the Chapter 1 meditation points. Once we are ready, we can go ahead and proceed to Chapter 2. This next chapter takes place in Yellow Wind Ridge, which is a fair bit larger than Black Wind Mountain. If you have any issues or questions, you can reach out to me in the comments where I will do my best to help. We'll be covering the entirety of Chapter 2 and Yellow Wind Ridge in Part 2 of this series. You can find that over on my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day if you're here today, have a great Wednesday, and as always, thanks for watching.